Welcome into another edition of the Pack Therapy Podcast. This one, another kind of emergency edition. We have some breaking news to react to. As always, we're joined by my co-host, Mike Glennon, former NC State quarterback, longtime NFL quarterback. And and I guess we can say it again, right? The streak continues. The last quarterback to begin his career at NC State, become a starter at NC State, finish at NC State, because it looks like next year's starter is going to be Grayson McCall. The news of the day, the greatest player in Coastal Carolina history, hit the portal, and he's coming to Raleigh. The news was broken earlier today by Inside Pack Sports. I mean, Mike, let's start at the very beginning. Should Pack fans be excited? Like, where's the optimism level for a guy like McCall coming to play at Carter Finley?
Absolutely. I mean, you're getting a guy that's played a lot of football, and he's played at a high level. Now, granted, it was at Coastal playing in the Sun Belt, which isn't quite the ACC. But to me, this is a guy that fits Dave Doran and his football team and the way he plays. He takes great care of the football, which goes a long way with a defensive-minded head coach. I don't know how much we talked this year about kind of the offense just not messing things up, because if you play with a lead, the defense is going to do their part with Tony Gibson. And then he's very accurate, which to me is extremely important. I mean, you're not going to the portal to find a guy that fits KC Concepcion, but you have a guy that's really accurate, and that allows a guy like KC, who's best when he gets the ball in his hand. So with good ball placement leads to a lot of yard after catch. So having that guy is huge for KC, and I guess I wouldn't say a knock, but from watching a little bit of film on him, on Grayson, that is he doesn't have a huge arm. But I don't think you need a huge arm when you have a guy like KC Concepcion that you just got to get the ball to, let him get in space and do his thing. So I think how he looks, it's not exactly Brennan Armstrong. He's a guy that can run when needed, but he's not a guy that I think you may be designing those QB powers, QB counters for. I think it's the offense is going to look different again next year, and that's what Dave Doran hit on when he brought in Robert Nye, is he adapts to his players, and this is a guy that I'm sure they're going to do a great job building around.
Does it? It seems like Dave Doran. There was all of these thoughts coming into the season, getting Brennan Armstrong, of maybe they were going to air it out and air Wolfpack and all of this, and it turned out to be, hey, we're going to lean on defense and you're going to be safe on offense. Grayson McCall, from my vantage point, would have been a great addition to this past year's NC State team because of everything you just said. Can you expect, like, Peyton Wilson's not coming back, right there? Like, can you expect the defense to just look at the quarterback and say, don't mess it up? The most impressive thing I see from McCall at Coastal Carolina is the guy does not turn the ball over. He had 14 interceptions and 1 billion pass attempts. He had 3 separate years with 3 or less interceptions, which this past year would have been awesome, right? If you have NC State's defense of 2023 and you only need a couple big plays a game, Grayson McCall, I think, fits that in. Is it fair to expect Tony Gibson to put that defense out there every single year?
I think that some of that may be determined in the next few weeks. This now feels like free agency in the NFL, where like you're looking like we have our group of guys, our 80% of our team. We still need to fill the rest of that 20% or whatever it typically is in free agency. And so I think it maybe depends on what players they get in the portal. But I do have a lot of confidence that between Dave Doran and Tony Gibson, they've proven now that they can year after year put out a good product on the field. So, losing Peyton Wilson is obviously going to be huge. But at the same time, I think from a philosophic standpoint of how we're going to win, what's our identity? Dave Doran's identity is to win with defense, to establish the run game, and I think that's going to continue the way with Grayson at the helm. Now, I think also you bring up a good point out that he would have fit this defense really well, and that of not kind of messing it up, not turning the ball over. But I do think almost with the lack of run game last year that they needed someone like Brennan to get something going in the run game, and there's still time to go out and get some running backs in the portal. I know there's rumors of a few guys that could be coming. So it could match up really well, this style of play as a quarterback versus what Brennan brought. I think it's a great fit. And I think NC State fans should be thrilled with getting him, as one of what's considered to be one of the top guys in the portal at a quarterback.
As a follower, a supporter, a fan of the program, are you cool if they just decide let's go get a 1-year rental every year at the quarterback position? Because the last 2 years now they've been like, you could argue the best offensive player at a school and then left that school to come to, and one of them another ACC program, Brennan Armstrong, UVA. Granted, probably not the best offensive player in UVA history, but pretty good statistically. And now they come to State for 1 year to end their career.
It would be my preference not to. I think the best, if you can find a guy that you recruit and have him and let him develop. But at the same time, if they can keep getting kind of one of these top ones, it's hard to argue against it. And now say they didn't get Grayson and they, go to that next tier or the tier after that, then we're probably having a different conversation. But if, Brennan obviously had his ups and downs, but I think if you can get a guy that's proven themselves like Brennan, like Grayson, it's hard to go against that, just because quarterback is it's a position that requires a lot of reps and a lot of experience to really play at a high level, unless you're a rare talent. So it's just like it's hard to find. So if you find one of those guys that has that experience, it's going to be hard to pass on. But we're gonna, it's December 13th, and already next year, come December, NC State's more than likely going to be looking for another quarterback. So it does kind of remind me of the basketball, the one and dones. You only have them for a year, but you're getting a good player as well for that 1 year.
Doesn't Dave Doran seem like the kind of guy that might just vibe better with veterans? Like, I mean, a rookie quarterback, a freshman quarterback, there is that element of, you're going to get the super high ceiling they might develop into, but you're also going to have to put up with, freshman or sophomore underclassmen mistakes. By going this way, you do kind of, like, these guys have been in college for half a decade, and Doran can almost look at them as like, coworkers, junior partners rather than interns. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I talking to Brendan last week on the podcast, that didn't feel like we were talking to a college kid. Like, that felt like we were talking to someone that I played with in the NFL. His maturity, his perspective, the way he just kind of described his day, he treated it like, he's in the NFL. So, yeah, that's a huge plus, and I'm sure Dave loves being able to get someone with that experience, with that leadership, with, it's not like you're talking to an 18-year-old kid who's brand new. I'm sure the recruiting of Grayson is so much different than the recruiting of a high school kid. It's way more business oriented, and it's probably more like Grayson was more or less recruiting them to find out what they had to offer.
What can you do for me? Well,
right.
Make your pitch.
So it'll. I don't hate it because it's just a new era of college football, and if you are at a program like Dave's gotten NC State to, where you're attractive to these other top quarterbacks, why not go that way? But I think in the ideal world, yeah, you have, a Brennan Armstrong, a Grayson McCall that you have for 1 year, but you also have that high school recruit that, maybe he redshirts a year, doesn't play for a year or two, and then he takes over, just because it's familiarity, it's growing in the offense. I mean, it's going to be a brand new, Grayson had a new offense last year with Tim Beck, and now he's going to have another new offense this year. So ideally, you would probably love to see a guy grow within the program. But at the same time, this is the rule. You're allowed to do it, so why not take advantage of it?
I want to get back to the Tim Beck element, but first, I also think State might just be getting good at this. And what I mean by that is, we talked about it with KC Concepcion. State beat North Carolina. In the post game, Dave Doran said, "Hey, everybody, we need you to give money. We need 5,000 fans to give $1,000." And they didn't get that much, but the collectives raised a bunch of money over the next 24, 48 hours. That was on, obviously, Saturday night. By Tuesday, the Savage Wolves had announced that they had locked up KC Concepcion for the next year. That efficiency is wild, right? Like, big win, capitalize on the donations, get the donations, allocate them to a player you need to keep, executed within 4 days. this felt similar, right? The moment the portal opened, it appeared, based on the information that was given publicly, leaked, revealed, Grayson McCall was their guy, right? Almost as soon as kind of the portal was wide open, there was the report of States visiting McCall for an in-home visit. Then all of a sudden, Grayson McCall was posting pictures to his social media. He was in Raleigh at the Capitol Grill with whoever he was with here in Raleigh, right? Assuming coaches or whoever. And then there's collectives saying like, oh, some big news might be coming today. And then we see Inside Pack Sports with the reveal that it's McCall today. They're getting pretty good at the communication, whatever it is, between program, collectives, player, because there are a lot of moving parts. And if they just get really good at that, it could be a massive advantage over every other team that, some coaches are resisting, some collectives are just being set up. If they get good at that, they could, like you said, continue to get kind of the crown jewels of the transfer portal rather than having to settle.
I think the momentum we talked about, it's like you look back and after that Duke game, if they didn't turn the season around, do they land Grayson McCall? I don't know. It was like NC State proved to, they beat Clemson, they beat Miami, they beat UNC. There's all this momentum. There's Casey Concepcion winning awards. There's Peyton Wilson winning awards. It was kind of like, how Travis Kelce put Taylor Swift on the map. It was kind of like Peyton and Casey put NC State on the map. And I think
it's her birthday, by the way. Happy birthday, Taylor Swift.
It is her birthday. She's a day younger than me. I don't know if you know that, Tim.
I didn't. Happy birthday to Mike, by the way. We said it on the afternoon show, but happy birthday from Pack Therapy.
Anyway, I just think that there's a lot of momentum. There's a lot of good vibes around this NC State program. I think Dave has kind of created himself as a figurehead for NC State, kind of, which you just don't see that much in college football anymore. I mean, outside of Dabo in the ACC, there hasn't, and Dave Clawson, but I feel like NC State's just a little bit larger scale than Wake Forest. But I think when people think of NC State, they have a coach that they identify that program with, where you can't say that about a lot of schools. So I do think that this could be I don't want to say rinse and repeat, but you could get in a mode where NC State's had that reputation and momentum to do this year after year. And I think this year the cards played out perfectly. And we didn't even bring up that they brought in Wesley Grimes, who is a great he's going to be a great number 2 to KC. I called the Wake Forest spring game last year, and he had a big game. And I really think, at the time I was saying I think Wesley Grimes would be the number 1 at NC State. That was before I knew of kind of Casey Concepcion. But I think it became a place where quarterbacks want to be. It's between the receiving room, the state of the program, the collectives, what you mentioned. There's just a ton of momentum and velocity kind of favoring NC State right now.
And not just Grimes, Zeke Correll, 2-year starting center at Notre Dame, coming to NC State to finish out his career. They're getting pretty good at the portal thing, which is important. I want to talk the Tim Beck element of it all. That's, I mean, it is an interesting, small world connection that if you look at Grayson McCall's production, unbelievable. 3 straight years of 24 plus touchdown passes and 3 or less interceptions. Then this past year, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, dealt with an injury at the end, just a down year based on what we had seen from him. And that was also the year that he was coached by Tim Beck, NC State's former offensive coordinator. So there is a kind of, if you just read the timeline, State is bringing Grayson McCall to Raleigh, hoping to catch the version of Grayson McCall from before he was coached by their former offensive coordinator, Tim Beck, right? They want to get him back to playing the way he was playing before Tim Beck got his hands on him as a coach, which just makes all of this a bit more, interesting and kind of like the web we weave, right? If you're a State fan and you don't like Tim Beck, you're looking at it going, all right, once you get him away from him, it'll be great again. If you're a State fan and you did like Tim Beck or you thought he was solid, you're looking at it going, all right, we got to really work with Grayson McCall to get him back to that previous performance. It's just another kind of character in the story.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and it's like, have you heard this story before about a quarterback having a bigger year than 2 years ago, and
Mm.
they're trying to get him back and to that, having playing at that high level, just like we talked about with Brendan and Robert and I. Now, I haven't dove into Grayson enough to look at the film from the past, but if prior to this year, but if I recall, when Tim Beck left for Coastal, one of the names that NC State was reportedly interested in hiring as OC was Willie Korn, who was who was offense coordinator at Coastal Carolina, and I believe they said he kind of ran a little bit of a funky offense. So maybe he just had a hard time adapting to Tim Beck's system, and that's fair. I mean, I think
Mhm.
that's what we just talked about. You want to grow in a system versus 1 year. So then that leads to, okay, well, is he going to struggle in his first year in a new system with Robert and I? And we don't know the answer to that. The only thing I will say is I think Robert and I proved to us, and Brennan confirmed it, that the offense that he ran at Virginia with Robert and I was not the offense he ran here. It was built around the current players and what they do best. So I'm sure they'll do a great job tailoring this around Grayson's skill set, around KC, around Wesley Grimes, and whatever running backs they get in the portal. So, I feel confident in this coaching staff and a player that has been around to adapt. This won't be his first time going to a new offense; it'll be his second time. So maybe that transition's a little bit easier. I think it's also fair to point out that he missed a bunch of games with the concussion.
Mhm.
So who knows how the rest of the season would have gone? Maybe he would have improved as it went on. I think at the end of the day, they got a player with a good skill set that has played a lot of football, and I don't think they could have gotten much better out there in the portal than what they did.
Quickly here before we wrap up, you brought up that it is kind of like free agency where you kind of know most of your roster, but you're looking for maybe 20%. What are we going to do with it? How are we going to fill these spots? What's next? Wesley Grimes, great pickup at the wide receiver position. You brought it up from Wake Forest. Zeke Correll fills a possible need on the interior of the offensive line from Notre Dame. Now you get the quarterback, which was probably number one on your list from the beginning. If we're checking off the shopping list here, what do you still have to go look for in the portal?
Yeah, I think they got to go get a running back. With the transfers out.
And I'm sorry, I want to jump in. Valen Erickson, also they got out of Mizzou, a less experienced offensive lineman. I just don't want to leave anybody out.
So I think they need to get a running back for sure, and then I think just bolster up kind of the spots that you feel like you need a little bit more depth. Some guys, you're losing some guys on defense, potentially losing some guys on the offensive line. I'm not going to play GM here and pretend I know every single.
You got the 3D blocked up. Who looked good at in the preseason scrimmages that you're excited about jumping up there?
But I rest easy at night, trusting this staff that whatever they feel they need, they're gonna fill those spots because they've proven it. I mean, this is really 2 years in a row they've done a great job in the portal getting guys. You talk about Robert Kennedy out of ODU last year, had a great year. Whatever they feel the need is, I think they've done a good job with it. And it sounds like this is just the kind of the beginning of this whole transfer portal thing. There's still guys that may be leaving from NC State. There's guys that could still be entering the portal from other schools. So there's still a lot of time left. I think they'll continue to go out there and find the right guys.
There will be another infusion, but there's kind of two more transfer infusions. And I know they moved the window, so I hope this is still the case. But definitely after bowl games, there will be another infusion where guys that wanted to play out the full year, including bowl game, with their current squad, they'll then hit the portal. And then there's usually one, and I hope there's still a window there after spring ball when guys kind of see the writing on the wall on who's going to be playing next year and who's not. So there's still opportunities. Speaking in the abstract, though, right? Not naming names because, to be quite honest with you, I don't even know how coaches evaluate every player in the portal from everywhere in the country. I know they have third party subscriptions and stuff, but knowing Grayson McCall's skill set, and we've talked about it, right? Accurate, maybe not throwing, too many wow, Josh Allen got a gun throws, but but he can move a little bit, not as much as Brennan Armstrong, definitely not later in his career. From a running back perspective, is there an archetype? Are you looking for pass catcher out of the backfield, a bruiser, somebody to run between the tackles? Like, is there an archetype that you're looking at? Just speaking in descriptions rather than names.
No, but I think in the ideal world you're getting two,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the second one is going to be play off of the first one. If you go get a guy that's great out of the backfield, maybe you do need a bruiser. I think in the ideal world, you're getting an all-purpose guy because in this offense, I think you need to be able to kind of do it all. That they're going to expect the running back to be able to catch the ball and run it and be good in pass protection. So I know there's been rumors of Jordan Waters from Duke, who he seems kind of like an all-purpose back. I know there's been rumors about a young guy out of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know the skill set as well, but I think at the end of the day, we keep getting back to it, but Robert and I is going to craft it around the guys. But you need a guy that's going to be able to get, 4 yards a carry and to keep you staying on schedule, because with the way the defense plays, with the mentality of this program, is that you want to be staying on schedule on first and second down to get in third and manageables. And you don't necessarily need the home run guy, although obviously you're never going to argue against having a player that can take it to the house at any point. But you really just need a guy that's going to keep you on schedule and then let Grayson, an accurate quarterback, get into third down situations where he can go out and find KC or find Leslie Grimes.
If you need a home run guy, you can always put KC in the backfield.
Right. Yeah.
And actually, the last point here, Grayson on his conversation with Inside Pack Sports did say that KC Concepcion offered him number 10, and McCall turned it down. But he said that shows what kind of a teammate that KC Concepcion is, prior to even the officially being teammates. To which I say that just shows how much a wide receiver knows. Get the quarterback here, whatever it takes. Wide receivers need the guy to get him the ball.
But you almost wonder now just how much this game is becoming the NFL. And the NFL, that 10 would have probably been sold for about $10,000. Maybe not to your quarterback, but if Casey's number 10 and I don't know, another receiver or
if Wesley Grimes really wanted number 10,
right? You got to fork up about $10K for that one. But yeah, that's true that he's trying to get on the good side of the quarterback, and
he's selling it for targets. He's selling it for trust, right? Like
10 targets a game. Give me 10 targets a game, and
when I'm covered, I'm not really covered. If you want number 10, you know what I mean.
But no, I think it's good on both sides. I think that was nice of KC to offer that up. At the same time, I think Grayson should respect what KC did last year, wearing that number, and he's off to a new school anyway. He can find a new number to wear.
There you go, Mike. We appreciate it as always. For everybody else, check out the Next Pack Therapy. Probably another emergency pod with some other breaking news in the not too distant future. Mike, thanks, man.
Yep.